In today's episode, we're chatting with a very inspiring guest who's going to help you overcome the anxiety that is produced by inertia so that you can see the possibilities where maybe to this point you've only been talking impossibilities. Turning a supposed limitation into the freedom to try is something that you can learn. That's all coming up next, right here on Stop Doubting Your Dream. Stay tuned. If you have a deep-rooted dream you long to pursue but feel held back by self-doubt, the possibility of failure, and the relentless demands of everyday life, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jeff Meyer, and I know that taking the leap of faith to make your dream a reality and overcome the seeds of doubt planted by those who say it's too risky can feel overwhelming and discouraging sometimes, and cause you to question whether or not your dream is worth pursuing at all. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be an either-or choice. It's possible to pursue your dream without risking your stability or security in the process. And each week on the show, I'm going to show you and give you practical action steps you need to turn your dream into a viable source of income, so you can live without regret, reshape your future, and create the meaningful change you want to see in the world, all without leaving your day job. So if you're someone who's ready to stop doubting your dream and start living it, let's dive in. Welcome back. This is episode number 59, and I'm excited today to introduce you to my new friend and business colleague, Gail Groy. Having spent the last year getting to know Gail through a local business networking group, I've come to appreciate her determination and her resolve to live her dream against so many obstacles. So we dove a little deeper into the art of transforming our can'ts into cans, because this switch is fundamental to helping you solve the resulting inertia and restlessness that is keeping you anxious, stuck, and passive in your dream pursuit. Every time I have been tempted to believe the voice in my head that lies to me. You can't do this. This is not worth the investment and risk. Somebody else can do this better than you can. Who are you that you think you can do this? People are going to find you out. Sound familiar? Well, maybe not, but those are voices that frequent my mindset. Every time that happens, someone comes into my life that reminds me about why I do what we do and who I do it for. And it motivates me to keep going. Recently, my wife and I, we went out for a drive looking at possibility of other places to live. We've been in an apartment for 3 years. We're content here and love it here, but maybe it's time to look. And so we went out, and I was rather down that day. We decided after looking at this particular property to go out for supper nearby and invited some friends to come because I was feeling a bit of a need for encouragement. As we're sitting there and I'm rehearsing all of these voices in my head, this couple walks in. Now, mind you, we have never been to this restaurant. We've lived in this area for 25 plus years. This couple walks into the restaurant that I married over 20 years ago. And they really, really needed some encouragement. They reminded me that night of my who. And it also reminded me again that night that there's always a who to my dream, and the who is bigger than you. Let me say that again. There's a who to your dream, and the who is bigger than you. Gail Groy said this: I saw years of justice in front of me. A British and American lawyer, now living full-time in America. While working for a subsidiary of Apple during the time they were shaping their vision for the iPhone, her colleagues at Apple encouraged Gail to pursue law. And even though the iPhone vision as an electronics engineer was really appealing to her, she decided to pursue law and she would never look back. Pursuing justice was the dream that captured her heart. Raised by parents who didn't have the opportunities that others did and experienced injustice in Great Britain, Gail is determined to help people who are experiencing injustice and see no hope, get things right for them, and realize the hope that once seemed impossible. When someone is wronged and you are instrumental in putting that right, Gail would say it's a huge satisfaction. And she has fun doing it. She also taught me in this interview that the realization that what I'm doing is indispensable is what accelerates a dream. All the education in the world is nothing unless you are helping someone, unless you are helping your who. British and American personal injury lawyer, electronics engineer, community member, woman of color, wife, and mother of 5, Gail Groy. The thing I love most about my podcast is it's not just me talking. I get to talk to some of the greatest people in the world and hear their stories and to share them with you. So today is no exception. I met Gail recently, and I've just been really excited to be able to share her story with you. So Gail Groy, thank you so much for being with us today on our podcast. Why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, who you live in your home with, anything that you want to share.
Well, thank you for having me, Jeff. It's my pleasure. My pleasure to meet you and my pleasure to be part of your dream, the Dream podcast. So my name is Gail. My last name is Groy. And I always go Groy, Gail Groy. Okay. I was born in the United Kingdom, in Wimbledon, of 2 parents who had migrated from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago. Funny enough, my mom and dad took a boat over and they were very young to the Caribbean, from the Caribbean to England, and had us 4 children. And you can imagine they worked day and night to see their children have success, I would argue. And then about 20 years ago, I married and moved to the United States. I've been living in Wisconsin for the last, I think, 15 of those, well, since 2006 in Wisconsin. And that would be an introduction to me. I have 5 children. I'm a lawyer. I'm a British lawyer and an American lawyer. I'm also an electronic engineer and a teacher.
And a teacher.
Physics teacher. And all of those are what I would humbly say my parents strived and were committed to raising children that would be successful and at the same time humble.
Wonderful. So you have an amazing story. What brought you to the United States?
It's the land of opportunity. I was young. I wanted to explore. And so I got on an airplane. I was a lawyer. I was lucky enough my husband was lucky enough to have work in the United States. And so I came across to the United States with 3 children, and now I have 5. And didn't turn back. And that was 20 odd years ago. So I came here knowing no one, really. And from my experience of being in the United States, it's an absolutely amazing experience. In those days when I came over, I was a British lawyer. I wasn't able to practice law here. And people that didn't know me assisted me to campaign to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin and have an audience with a panel of Supreme Court judges. And I was completely unknown. And they gave me a special dispensation to do the bar exams here and practice law. And I stood up in the podium in front of them and I thanked the people that helped me to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I did that, as I knocked on the doors of judges and lawyers and your mothers and said, you don't know me, but could you say that I'm nice? Right? Could you say I'm nice? And they did. They said, but you are, which I thought, well, that's nice. Somebody thinks, yeah. And I took those petitions together with the Board of Bar Examiners. And I went to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin with it and had an audience.
So tell me, the electrical engineer, professor, teacher. Go ahead.
Bachelor of Engineering.
Bachelor of Engineering?
I'm a qualified electrical and electronic engineer. I was one of 3 women who did an electrical engineering degree at Leeds University in England. That was before I decided to be a lawyer. And that was in itself a dream, because there were not, I was in Women in Science and Engineering at high school level. And in those days, the women were not going into engineering. Okay. Yeah. And I did. And I worked for the General Electric Company, the GEC small machines. In fact, I had a sponsorship with them, a scholarship from them to do engineering. And somewhere along the line, I worked for a subsidiary of one of Apple's small businesses, was writing software, educational software. And I was in the United States doing at a conference, and somebody from Apple said, go and do law, because I was an Apple visionary. And they said, go and do law. And so I went and did law, and I never went back, which is unfortunate, because I was going to do law.
So why
go back to Apple?
Why did the people around you tell you to go and do law?
I think it was a stepping stone into senior management in the area I was in, but also it's a platform. So it's a platform it's a basic platform of knowledge. If you want it, in that particular career, electrical electronic engineer, which I was, coupled with a law degree. I mean, that was a indispensable qualification to get into the visionary area. And
but that didn't lead you to the visionary area. It led you into law.
I stayed because law needed more.
So what did you fall in love with that you were willing to let go of your prior training to just pursue law, to do that only?
I'll just say before I say that the vision was this: when I first was involved with this, the visionaries from Apple, and my small subsidiary company of Apple was what is now known as the Apple iPhone. So we were working on that vision, right? And I didn't follow it. I didn't pursue it. I wasn't involved in it. But I remember the basics of it, going to seminars, and they were speaking about it. And even that couldn't keep me from the law. So when and that's something to be said, because when I did the law, I saw years and years of justice in front of me, and I could be an instrument in bringing justice. And remember, I have a British background and American. So to couple those both, I remember talking to the Supreme Court about this. I am British trained, but it is the same common law, right? So bring that area into America and in England and have that experience. It could only bring justice. It was a passion that I had to pursue. When somebody has been wronged, and you're instrumental in putting that wrong right for them, even if it's a small amount, it's a huge amount for me career-wise as a satisfaction, especially when there was no hope before. So it's some way instrumental in helping to put what is wrong and make it right.
Yeah, I love that. So the pursuit of a dream largely gets accelerated when the person pursuing the dream realizes that what they're doing is indispensable, right? That it is, the phrase I use a lot is your dream must live. So you got to a place where you realize that justice and providing justice for people who think there's no hope, people that will not get a fair shake, was something you were willing to pursue with your life. And
so it's more than pursue. It's I'm living. I get very involved, so I understand. So you have to see the wrong through your client's eyes. The client is the person you treat. They haven't been treated well, and my job is to make sure they are treated well. So there's a light that comes on inside you, and then you realize that all the education you have in the world is nothing unless you're helping that person.
Love that. So you had 5 children at this time when you're pursuing the law degree in America. I would guess that there's probably not a lot of mothers that were doing what you were doing. Just like there was probably not a lot of women that were pursuing the electronic engineering degree as well. So you're kind of a groundbreaker in that regard. Talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced as a young mother, trying to pursue a law degree and do justice and also raise 5 children.
So I tell you, what I'm going to say to younger women and younger mothers is showcase it. Take the babies in your arms, leave them sitting outside the courtroom, or put them on your back and on the front and take them and showcase and be proud of your children. They are part of the package. All right. And so, yes, I was. And I've been asked that. You had all these children. And I remember running into court, baby powder on me, or going into the bathrooms if I was nursing my baby. And I didn't mind. I was going to do it. And the people that I met in the different courtrooms in Wisconsin were very encouraging. But I have been into the courtrooms, and they haven't been in my area of personal injury law. They haven't been many women in that area that I've come across that are litigators. And it's hard to keep women in Wisconsin. Okay. And I say that, and women of color and women with children, because there's more facilities in other states that assist you. But stick it out, because I have found, being that I've been pro hoc vice in different states, I have found that Wisconsin lawyers are very respectful and encouraging of their younger and of their women lawyers, in my experience. But if I could just be an example of it can work, then I'd like to be that. And if anybody is discouraged, I'd like to encourage that.
Yes, I think you do. And it's amazing. So many people push their dreams off till later. Were you ever tempted to say, well, maybe when the kids are a little older, maybe when things slow down a little bit, I'll pursue this? Did that thought ever cross your mind?
I did take some time off with the kids. I took some time off because I have 3 children that are very close in age, and I took time off with them. But I argued with everybody. I would just argue. I'd argue with the shopkeepers. I would argue with all my friends. I would argue with I was like, this is just not fair. Go to the grocery, and I was like, you advertise this. I would find, and so I just couldn't stay at home for longer than I did. It was wonderful, but when I was there, I assisted in many groups I was in. I joined mothers groups, and we put together co-ops. So I wasn't at home I was volunteered in the school. I became part of the governing council in the local schools. So I did a lot. And I can say that it was all that time I took with those mothers that makes me and assists me in my business now. All right. So the time, because we were all mothers together with younger children, professional women that decided to stay home and have fun with our kids, and, give them that time in their young lives, give them time more time than we would if we were working. And these are the same mums 10 years later that are assisting me in my business, that are helping me in my business, that I help. And so he really is part of the journey. And it was fabulous to be at home, even though I argued with everyone.
So it keeps burning, right? The dream, the calling, if you will, keeps burning in us to a point where you have to do it, and you find a way. But you don't do it alone. I love how you just shared that your pursuit and you're living out this dream includes a community of people that you have served and have also served you and encouraged you. Who's your who? You talk about being a personal injury lawyer. That's specifically your niche. But who's your who? Can you share any stories without breaking any confidentialities of people that you've helped? When I say who's your who, when I work in the Dream Accelerator, I try to help people picture and develop in such clarity the person they're trying to help with their dream. Who is it that you specifically help with your dream? Because when it gets hard, remembering your who gives you the motivation to keep moving forward anyway, because you know that there are people that are waiting to be blessed by what you do, right? So who are your who's?
But Jeff, if you close your eyes and look around you, those are my who's. I've helped a lot of people, and they're all around you, and they've helped me, and their trade. But I have helped them, and it ranges from it's personal injury is so unexpected. All right. Mm-hmm. You're not going to expect that you irrationally get so injured that you don't make it. You don't expect that. You don't expect that you slip and break your hips, and you slip and fall at no fault of your own in a shop or in a premises, and you no longer can work. All right. You don't expect to have an injustice done to you. I can name them because I've done this for many years. You don't expect if you have a career, you're maybe a model, and a dog bites you on your face, and you can no longer do that. These are the examples of things that I have done, along with your standard things like you're getting an unexpected accident, or a truck hits you, or you. I had a case where this lady was traveling along the highway, and a truck's tire blew off and landed at high speed and crushed the roof of her car. Okay. And I'm there. I jump on the bandwagon. I jump to help them. I'm like, there's hospital bills. You may not be working anymore. You may not, there's a lot of things there's a lot of laws in Wisconsin that not necessarily going to protect you. All right. And so I jump in there, and the idea of personal injury is to compensate you for your injustice and your pain. And I took that very seriously because, I've done cases where there's been people have been riding their bicycles, and the product disintegrated. Part of the bicycle got disintegrated, and they cracked their head open when they fell over. It's just the least expected. And it's good to have the engineering that I have, that background, and also the electronic engineering background. Because you understand the products, you understand. Hey, this can disintegrate. This can. This is what, and you also. What I do is I use as my experts our local people. Like I'll go to the UW and I'll say, okay, engineering department, and it's great, it's wonderful, and they'll come up with a protege of what should and shouldn't happen. So it's really, you have that dream, you use your knowledge, and you grow in your community in all areas. The medical doctors are fabulous around here. They'll act as, and they are my friends' parents. A lot of them are the children's friends' parents. So it takes a huge community. You go to church, and there's somebody in the church community, they're like, Gail, and you sit down and you get to know them, you get to talk to them. They're like, well, this happened. And you're like, I'm so sorry. How can I help you? So it's that is when you ask the question of whom it is that you have, who is your go-to, you sit and you talk and you understand the lives of those people around you, and then you hear of an injustice and you say, I can help you, or they ask you to help them.
So there is injustice in the world with those who get injured, with those who have these unexpected moments that impact their lives. You have seen injustice. You have seen some people get treated with respect and get what they need to move forward, and you've seen others that don't have that same opportunity.
I have, and I'm going to make sure that they do have that opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
I'm going to be happy doing it. And
mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the basis of the dream, because I come from a background where there wasn't, for my own parents, my own family, there were not those opportunities. And so I can't rest until if you're hurt, I'm going to make sure that you have a justice. If you're hurt and it's not your fault.
I love how all the way back in your childhood, the dream was already sparked by seeing what happened in your family and with your parents. And you wanted to make it right. A lot of dreams get birthed by seeing something that's wrong in the world and realizing the giftedness you have to make a contribution to make it better. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're hearing Gail's story, you can think about your own story. You know, what do you see in the world that you could make better? And that you have the gifts and the skills and the opportunity to do it. And then pursue it, go after it, learn, grow, put yourself in a position to offer your gifts so that the world can be a better place. That's the kind of dream we're talking about pursuing. We're not talking about pursuing dreams that just make us rich or wealthy or make us more comfortable. Right. It's pursuing dreams to help people and to make their lives better. And so I love your story, Gail. It's an incredible story.
But it's evolving. Like every day, the people you come across will say, you'll be like, that's a direction. And you almost recreate, like I opened my own law firm in August. And if somebody had asked me this a few years ago, I would have said, no, I'm never doing that. But it evolved. We had the pandemic. We had a lot of need. And also in that period of time, had a time to slow down and reconsider. Slow down and meditate. And I meditate and think of the thoughts of the direction. And to follow my dream was to start my own firm, start my own law firm. I'm a sole practitioner currently. That may change, but right now I'm sole practitioner. And I would honestly say it is living the dream. So
hear that. The dream is always evolving. It's always changing and growing. If we listen, if we slow down, love what you said. The pandemic allowed us a space to slow down and consider, maybe reconsider, meditate, have greater awareness. Sometimes we're not aware of where we're being led because we're so busy moving, shaking, working, grinding. And there's things that get revealed to us when we slow down and we pay attention. We have conversations and we listen. So I love that you've just started your own law.
And you summed that up. 100%. We don't have the time. And if it was the only thing the pandemic did, it was to slow down for me, you know?
Yeah. And I remember people during the pandemic actually saying, wow, I'm feeling a little guilty that I'm actually enjoying this because I have a built-in no. I can say no to things like I never said before because we were social distancing and all of that. And lately I've noticed that we've just gotten right back into the same routine we were before the pandemic. And people are running around crazy, working hard, complaining about how busy life is. What is it about the human condition that we can't learn the lesson that maybe we're supposed to learn, and we go back to those old behaviors. What is it about the human condition that keeps us just flying around and not slowing down? I'm taking us off script here. I'm just curious, because it's fascinating to me how people get right back into the same thing that was killing them before the pandemic. The pandemic actually gave us an opportunity to reorient our life, and now we're right back at it.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of people I have come across like myself that didn't go right back to it. Whether we will get back to what we were, I'm not at that stage yet. But I mean, I think there are a lot that didn't. And the circles that I've spoke to, the ladies, their husbands, we were at that age where the children were just gone to university. And we're not empty nesters because I still have a young one at home, right? But it was the busyness coupled with the pandemic, you were able to think. And a lot of people I know did think. I know people that followed their dreams and opened fishing or tackle shops, and they're now living it. And so in my view, I think, I'm been opening up my own business and designing my own card. I never thought that's my card. I never thought I would do that. I know it's just simple. And I never thought, I always had somebody else design it for me. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm not a designer. I can't do that. But you are. You can, and that may evolve. And so now it's living and changing that journey to continue. And the paths I'm crossing now, like I'm practicing the personal injury law, but the paths I'm crossing now are almost teaching me, well, this is where you're going to be, right? So it's exciting, and I want to stay on the path. Right now, I don't want to deviate, but you never know.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're right about the busyness. People are busy again, but I don't know if it's the same kind of busy. Or whether they're living their life, the dream they wanted to. I don't know. I have to tell you in 10 years' time.
Yeah, it's a constant evolving process, isn't it? So when you are looking right smack dab into the future, and you're being led on that pathway, and it's a new pathway, and it's something that you haven't done before, whether it's small, like designing your business card by yourself, or launching your new big thing, like going out on your own. What kind of fears did you encounter in your own heart that you had to wrestle to the ground and move forward anyway with? What kind of fears did you experience?
That's a really, really good question. It was never the fear of the law, because that was something that I have I'm practiced in. I have a round table of colleagues that I'm on listservs, I'm on teams of lawyers. Wasn't that. What it was outside of my comfort zone. Because my comfort zone was I was in larger law firms, and they did things like your business cards, and they did your marketing, and they got your equipment for you. Like, I'm just about to buy a copying machine, and the panic from it. And I was like, I've got to get a Xerox,
Oh my gosh, I can totally relate.
Exactly. And where do I get this? Do I get a refurbished? Do I do? And then I got into the habit to breathe, and that is what the pandemic did teach me. I breathe, and I'm like, this is going. In my mind, I am almost educating myself again to be. It will be okay. So those are the things. It's the things like, will I have the right stationery? Will I, support system? What is your support system? And I feel with me, I take one day at a day, and I do each day well. And if I do something that I don't think I did that well, I go one step backwards and then 2 steps forward. But I'm learning not to let myself get scared, because I don't want to be scared. You see,
Right.
fear is what in my lifetime, fear is what prevented me from moving forward. So now I feel it across my lifetime when I overcame fear, that as I've got the tools in my mind that assist me not to be fearful in my business. And those tools are logically, like an engineer, back to my engineering, is writing down the A, B, C, Ds of can-dos. And what you can't do, well, where can you get assistance to help you to can do? And then it's all in a budget. So you work out your budget, you speak to your bank manager, you make sure that it's all, and in what's happened right now, it has fallen into place. I'm hoping to continue as I go. There hasn't been, and reading, like I have here the books that I read, which are, different areas of where I want to go with a business. So I read what other people did. I read how they did it, where they did it, and when they did it. So the how, the where, and the when. And
I love it. So if you hear Gail, hear her loud and clear. The fear will come, fear will stay, move forward anyway, is my mantra. And it's the thing that began this whole podcast. And every entrepreneur I talk to says the same thing. Fear continues, but we learn how to deal with it. We learn how to leverage it and use it. And she mentioned a couple of things that are really important. And I just want to highlight those so you don't miss them. Breathing. When you feel that anxiety level about the copy machine, like, am I going to make a wrong decision? This is a terrible decision. You can breathe and you can tell yourself it's going to be okay. So recalculating that mental conversation that goes on up here that says you can't, well, you can re-articulate that in a way that says you can. Or if you legitimately can't, but you need to, there's always resources to help you deal with that can't and turn it into a can. And that might be a person, it might be a product, it might be some other solution that comes out of the blue that can help you do what you can't. But don't let fear keep you paralyzed, because your dream needs to live just as much as Gail's does. And you might hear Gail saying today about injustice, and you go, well, my dream isn't that. That's a big contribution in society, justice, right? Doing justice. Mine isn't that big. And Gail, I'd like you to speak to my audience for somebody that might be thinking that today. They might be minimizing their own dream. What would you like to say to them?
I'd like to say, live your dream. There's no dream that is not big enough, because it's your dream. Only you have a dream and live it. I didn't ever think having 5 children and running and going out into the law and learning with all these different avenues, I never thought I would open my own. But I did. And I took a moment, and in that moment, there was something that said, live your dream. And I encourage you, please, no dream is small. But I have one last thing. When you have that fear, there's something I do. Because sometimes it envelopes you, that fear of, the decision, and am I making the right decision? And is that decision going to harm? Or is that decision going to cost more money than I have? Or am I going to fall flat on my face? Or am I going to have no client? Or is no one going to like me? There's one thing you can do. You can say, everyone is going to like me. You can say, actually more than one thing. I'm not going to put a number to it. There's a few things you can do. Just say, everyone is going to like you. I'm going to like you. All right. Just say you can do it. And the last thing that I do is you push your chair away from your desk and you stand up and you just jump as high as you can. And let me tell you, it works. Try it. All your fears go away. And you sit back down and you calm again and you start again. All right.
Yeah. Changing your physical posture, movement, engaging your whole body is very important. As part of what we deal with in the Dream Accelerator is we actually go there and we do some physical training, breathing, breath work, grounding yourself, being aware of what you're feeling in the moment, articulating it in a way that takes it out of the silence in your head and puts it into a place where you can explore it and look at it and go, you know what? There might be some truth in that, but that's not a true statement that I'm saying right now. I am being held captive by a lie, and I need to re-articulate this in a way that's true and empowering. And it's all very important lifestyle. One of the greatest things about being an entrepreneur is you actually learn so much about yourself, about how the human brain works, about how your body is designed to help you deal with anxiety and trouble when it comes. It's the greatest place where you can grow as a human being when you push yourself to do something that scares you. That is an amazing thing.
And you do grow, and you do grow. That's the thing. And that's what I found. You push yourself out of that comfort zone and you find that you actually are okay. So there is, if my dreams sound big, the law is complicated, bringing justice, overriding, going into a justice system. But I don't want that. I want that somebody who's listening to this to think my dreams, their dreams are also big.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would love to hear about that too.
Yeah.
So there you are.
So to that end, how can people get a hold of you? How can people converse with you, learn more about what you're doing, Gail? How would you like them to get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website, gail@groylaw.com, which is GAIL@GROYLAW.com. But there are many ways to contact me. You can email me, or I have my work phone number. You can call me. I like to speak to people, and I arrange groups of people. I have coffee mornings. I have a cell phone number that's on my business card. My business card is here, 262-344-1548. But even if you just have coffee, with someone else who's in the same position, I did that, and it encouraged me, and I would be honored if I could encourage someone else.
Gail's not just blowing smoke at this point in the conversation. She actually will do what she said she will do. So don't hesitate to reach out to her. I've had a lunch with her and was greatly encouraged by the conversation. And I've been encouraged to be around her recently through a local networking group called BNI that I'm happy to be a part of. I'd love to tell you more about that if anybody's interested. But all of her contact information will be in the show notes here. So don't hesitate to reach out to her. Gail, thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation. Thank you for what you're doing in the world for others. And thank you for just being present and being you in every interaction. It's an honor to be able to share your story today with our audience. Thanks for joining us.
I am much obliged, and I'm very grateful for your kind words. Thank you.
Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today for another episode of Stop Doubting Your Dream. If you want to connect with Gail, make sure you head to the show notes so you can check out her website and maybe in the process light a spark in you to turn your I can'ts into I cans and start living your dream. If you like the show, if you like today's episode, it was an encouragement to you. If you've liked the show over recent weeks, can I ask you to take a moment and just share this episode with a friend? It might be a great encouragement for them as well and help others find this encouraging interview. Next week on the show, we're going to discover how perfectionism, which tends to be glorified in our culture, is actually sabotaging your dream so that you can cultivate a greater awareness and take consistent action moving forward, all helping get yourself out of the way. Join me back here next week. And until then, The journey towards your dream begins today. Take action with a single step.